This is Trade Show Junkie. Join me as we dive into the world of trade shows, connecting leading industry thought leaders. We'll explore their personal stories of triumphs and failures, giving you a unique behind-the-scenes perspective. This is Trade Show Junkie. Hello and welcome to the first episode of Trade Show Junkie. I'm your host, Stephanie Beringhele, and joining us today is Surf Expo's very own Senior Vice President, Roy Turner. Roy, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So we're so happy to have you. I do have a confession before we jump in. How long have you been with Surf Expo?
Oh my gosh, I've been employed by Surf Expo since 2007, and I think my first Surf Expo was in 1980.
Okay.
So quite a long history, yeah.
And so Surf Expo wasn't always a part of Emerald, and in fact, I used to sneak into your event back in the day so I could go get my prospects and pick up my business cards. So the fact that you and I just recently met, maybe about a month ago for the TSC Gold 100, we finally got to have dinner, but it was right. Like, oh, I'm with the mythical creature and he exists, he's real.
Mythical usually goes with age. So yeah, it probably goes that way, but it was wonderful getting to meet you. You know, that's the great thing about Surf Expo is every time I bump into somebody that's familiar with it, they have a story like you to tell. So it's great to be a part of that.
Well, these days I'm invited, so that's a good thing. But so I wanna dive in on how did you even get into trade shows, and specific, how did you get into Surf Expo?
For 25 years, I was a retailer in the action sports industry, which was fantastic. I have a passion for being in front of people. I love the customer at the retail level, the connections that you can make in an exciting industry. I mean, you know, I'm not having a bad day. I'm in the surf and skateboard industry. How bad can that be, right? Stores located in beach locations. So, you know, again, you know, I'm not going downtown or walking into a mall, nothing against that, but it was pretty fun. Then about the year 2000, by the way, during all that time, I was a customer of Surf Expo, so an attendee on that side. Yeah. So around 2000, I thought I would kind of use some of the training that I had, formal training, and I launched a digital agency. Now you have to remember, around 2000, the iPhone wasn't even out, so we're talking pretty early internet. I launched my first internet business in 1998, so still in retail. And then my customer base was helping large brands jump into the direct consumer market or build an online presence. And I did that for quite a few years. And somewhere along the lines, I picked up a client out of London, another trade show producer, and it just so happened they owned Surf Expo. And one thing led to another, and I was talking to some clients in the oil and gas industry of all things, and the people from Surf Expo were there, and we're giving each other high fives and handshakes. And the people that owned the company at that time said, how do you know these guys? I said, well, actually, that's my real business is I know these guys. I know them like the back of my hand. So one thing led to another. And then around, I don't know, 2006, 2007, they made me an offer, and I've been at Surf Expo ever since.
And that's probably what makes you so amazing and relatable, because you've had different sides. You just haven't worked within the trade show space, right? You've been able to be a retailer and do other things. So that leads me to present day, right? Your team, you work with sellers, buyers, thought leaders all year long. What's kind of going on with the temperament of the market, and how is everyone feeling?
Yeah, you know, business and retail is tough this year. You know, 2023 isn't a banner year. You know, we're seeing some over inventoried situations, you know, where people were, you know, still concerned about supply chain and inventory. And a lot of people got caught on the backside of that. And that trickles back from the retailer to the manufacturer because of markdown dollars, too much in the marketplace, discounting and all of that. To clarify, in the surf and skate and the outdoor markets, COVID wasn't that bad. Okay. So because you couldn't You couldn't do anything inside. So we saw this huge growth in all outdoor sports, whether it's camping and hiking like we do at the Outdoor Retailer Show, or surfing and skateboarding, biking. All of those sports actually exploded during COVID because it's not a team sport. You do it individually and you do it outside. So we had customers, at least my customers saw huge growth years during 20, 21, 22. So now we roll out of COVID, everybody's still worried about supply chain, and they don't know what the new normal, where it's going to land. And
Yeah.
open to buy can be tricky in good times. And I just think, unfortunately, for some of my clientele, we ended up a little bit heavy sided on the other side with inventory. Business is still good. Participation is up in the majority of my sports. We also do a lot of work in the resort side of the business, and travel to resorts is up. So we're still seeing good growth there. But we're looking forward to the second half of 2024. How about that?
It's interesting because you're right. In COVID, when everything shut down, that's when my kids learned how to ride their bikes. That's when we
Yeah.
were out, we were doing hiking. And some of that actually has lingered to present day, where we'll wake up on a Sunday and let's go on a hike. It's a beautiful day. We live in California. Why not hit that mountain and just get, fresh air? My daughter usually cries because she doesn't like hiking. There's bees and there's ants. But to your point, some of that habit, that consumer habit, has continued, but also a little bit has died off as people are going back to the office space and they're trying to readjust their lives and everything.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The other thing that we had in the banner in the middle of all of this, something that we had been working on in the action sports industry all along, that should have had even a much bigger compound effect on my business, was the fact that surfing and skateboarding made it to the Olympics in Japan.
That's
And
right.
so, oh, dude, that's huge exposure. And so, we didn't get quite as big a benefit as we probably would if it hadn't been COVID. Because if you remember, there was even a question whether they were going to hold the Olympics in Japan. And but I think the long tail effect has been really, really good, and we're looking forward to the games in Paris coming up, and then after Paris, they come back to Los Angeles, which, it's right near Huntington Beach, which is Surf City, USA. So we see the future of our business looking really, really bright, just based on the industries we're in, the things that are happening. And like you said, you've continued, if you started an outdoor activity during COVID, chances are you might not be doing it every weekend, but it's become part of your lifestyle.
And so for Surf Expo, when you are working with clientele and you are consulting them and telling them that there's some stuff you just don't have control of, season shift, what's hot is not hot the next day. So how do you consult your clients to make sure that they're in tune with what's going on in the market and they can still have success at events, and optimize their time while networking on that trade show floor?
Yeah, yeah. You break your customer into two. Obviously the retailer attendee.
Mhm.
They're coming to find the next new, if you will, and that doesn't have to be a new brand. That could be a new item, a new trend. And I'm in a youth market for the most part, so that trend can go really, really fast, or it can have a longevity. Like everybody owns a pair of Vans shoes, right?
Yep.
So I think what we try and do with that customer is make them aware of new brands at the show so they can come in and try and supplement, what's new. We educate them on maybe how to get involved in a private label program with
Mhm.
low minimums, but how to start promoting their brand and offer resources that they can do that. Obviously, education becomes a play. Matchmaking comes in as a big call on that piece. So, connecting buyers and brands before, during, and after the show become really
Mhm.
important. So we try and do a bit of education there. And then on the exhibitor side, the same thing. We get a lot of entrepreneurs coming in, trying the show for the first time. It's their first trade show. It's their first
Mhm.
launch. We try and really walk those guys through what they need to be successful, some hurdles they might see, beyond just how the trade show works, how to order electrical, how to move in, what kind of booth do you need. We work with them on ideas on, line sheets, how to take orders, what is standard dating, what is the retail customer going to expect. I mean, I had a customer from Shark Tank. We get quite a few guys from Shark Tank. About 2 shows ago, one order, he sold his entire Chinese production. One order. So, and what was ironic, he goes, wow, we stayed on the phone, for quite a few times walking through purchase orders, what's expected on credit. Will they take COD? Can I ask for a credit card? And then in one hit, I get an order and I'm sold out. So there can be crazy success stories on one end, and then there can be challenging stories on the other. I like to tell everybody it takes 3 times at Surf Expo to become successful. So the first time you're coming, you're introducing your product, you're trying to make a few handshakes. Hopefully you make the sale to get through and cover your ROI, right? Well, now you've got a customer base. So when you come back to my next show, you make appointments with everybody you sold at the previous show, and you start to build on that again. So by the 3rd show, you might need new booth space because you're completely booked in an entire day based on the way you've grown your customer base. And the tools that we give the customer become super important. So matchmaking tools before the show, trying to get appointments, or even just reaching out to companies you would like to present your product in, become important. Even if they don't make an appointment with you, the fact that you've made them aware of your product is a good thing. And then we also offer on-site lead retrieval. So, and we do that for free at Surf Expo, by the way. So when somebody comes in, you can scan anybody's badge, and that handshake of the scan gives you all of the individual's information, which is different than what I can give you because of Can Spam Act, right? And so then you start to build on that, and that's kind of where we see the success. So building that community and trying to start those communications before the event, and then educating the people so they're all successful. If you can get a group of successful people in a room together, they'll figure out a way to make money, right? So that's kind of what we do. And the community part's fun, I always like to say that there are 2 things that we do in the industry, and all the guys at team will go, oh, here he's going to say it again. There are 2 words in the business we're in. One is trade, and the other is show, right? So the trade part is how we all make a living, and the show part is how we make connections, have fun, and create those Surf Expo stories you and I were talking about earlier.
So everything that you said, I think that there's so many people that have a misconception when it comes to shows. And as a trade show producer, the hardest thing about our jobs is that we care. We totally care. And it does no benefit for us to have somebody come in, whether it's an attendee or an exhibitor, and them to have a terrible event and then never come and join us again. So the pressure is real in terms of us assessing and saying, are you the right fit for this event? Or is there another event that's out there that's more appropriate for you, that might make a little bit more sense? So the fact that you give them the free lead retrievals is absolutely amazing, because not a lot of shows do that. To this point, trade shows in general, how can we be more collaborative and have this mentality where, again, we're here to service our community, and that community transcends to other events? So how can the trade show industry work more collectively together to make sure that we learn and we offer sellers and buyers the opportunity to have success at events?
I think when you go back and look at, and don't get me wrong, look, sales drives, revenue solves all problems, right? So we're all in the business of selling at whatever level, and trade shows are no different. So don't get me wrong, we want to sell our events and possibly some extra events, right? But I think the idea is to be honest and partner with our customers, so that if we're partner with our customer, I can say, oh, you should try this gift show in the Smoky Mountains. Or, hey, have you tried iCast? Because I reach a certain customer here, and iCast, who is a competitor, reaches a completely different customer over here. So I think those are the things that we can do within our community of trade shows, if you will, that'll help us continue to grow. And hopefully there's a reciprocation on the other end. So competitive shows are doing the exact same thing, because if we can make a partner successful, that's a wonderful thing.
Right. So I want to jump into environmental temperament. and I'm going to read this one out loud, but back in 2013, you did an interview with Shop, Eat, Surf, where you did
Yep.
a series called Looking Back and Ahead. You expressed a need for the industry to exert leadership to avoid fragmentation during a recession. Sounds very similar to today and maybe 2024. So, what are your thoughts about that statement and how it applies for today?
Funny you bring that up. About 6 weeks ago, our industry just went through probably one of the biggest transformations we've seen in its, I don't know, 70-year history, right? So about 6 weeks ago, actually, the deals went down the Friday before Surf Expo, which opened on a Tuesday. So that'll kind of, if you put it into perspective, but the largest companies in our industry, which was a group called Board Riders, which brands some of the readers or listeners might know, Quicksilver, Roxy, Billabong, Ruka, Element, Honolulu Bay, some of the largest players in the industry, they were sold to a group which also happens to own Volcom. So now the largest players in our industry outside of maybe Hurley, who had been bought and sold a couple of years soon ago from Nike, this all happened a day or two before our show. There's huge impact because they're changing the business model. The guys that bought Board Riders are really, really good at maximizing brands. We work with them through some other brands. And so, but nobody knew what was going to happen, which shows you why trade shows are important. So anyway, through relationships we had with a lot of the people that were going to own the company, we were able to do a couple of handshake deals, get all of the brands involved so that everything's announced over the weekend. And then when everybody came to the trade show on Monday, they could meet face to face with the new players, right? So pretty crazy from a logistical standpoint. But the fact that trade show can go beyond commerce and help an industry, no rumors, you can meet face to face and get it. So the idea that we were able to provide a platform where people could come face to face, retailers to manufacturers, and allow the questions to be answered in person, right? And get honest answers shows how we can help prevent some of that fragmentation in the industry that we saw right after the market collapse, in 2010, 2011. Our show, ironically, when the market fell, our show was, I think, January 8th that year, and the market collapsed on the 9th. So it was really interesting to see the looks on everybody's faces. What's going to happen? Largest drop in the stock market since, the worldwide recession in the 30s. And the fact that everybody was in one place and could talk, invent and share ideas and concerns, right?
Yeah.
The fact that we were able to be there then, and then with this huge transition within ownership in our industry just several weeks ago, kind of shows what we can do to play. I do think that it's important to have, cohesion within certain sectors and certain industries, because without that, I do think things disrupt, and then you simply become a catalog. And no offense to Amazon, but we don't want our individual industries to become simply an Amazon, right? They need to have a culture. They need to have new people coming into industry. They need success stories. And I don't think you see that when everything's askew in a line item. So I think that's as important today as it was 10 years ago. And hopefully trade shows are one of the places that build community and keep those industries together. The same can be said with industry associations, many of whom we partner with, right? So we're in the business of connecting buyers and retailers. They're in the associations, help promote the outreach of what each of those industries represent. But again, I think those words still stand true here 10 years later.
So true. And so content, right? Keeping these stories alive and humanizing everything. It's why you and I are on a call right now and talking about the industry. Every single person that's out in the universe has an authentic backstory. They've got a business model. So for you, you've got a trade show publication that caters to saying, here's the business side, but hey, here's the owner, and the owner is passing along their business to this person. So you've really opened that up. So how important is year-long content for industry members?
Yeah. No, I think it's super important. I think content's key. The more knowledge we have, obviously the more successful we are. When times are tough, I think it's um, reporting honestly. And I think that our crew, Tiffany at Shop Eat Surf, does a really good job of being very neutral, very steadfast in her reporting. It's not swayed politically by those that do our trade shows or that don't. They give an honest recount. Even when times are tough, sometimes it's nice to hear that you're not the only one in the basket, right?
Yeah.
If we're able to present trends, new things happening in between our trade shows and keep the market aware, then we're doing a good job. And then the other thing it does is we keep people aware of the members of the community where they are. So if there is a significant change in ownership or management within a group, where does that person go and
Mhm.
who fell into the new? And it almost becomes like a daily LinkedIn kind of tool. I know you're big on LinkedIn.
You know it.
Yeah, but you are. It becomes another set of resources there, but maybe more than a post in LinkedIn that so and so's moved from here to here. You can go read the story about it in the content that we're providing on a daily basis. And I think that's a great service. Yeah, I know when Tiffany started her business years ago. I was always a fan. The readership
Mhm.
level is C-level and above, and all the top retailers in the action sports industry read her products. And she called me one day about business growth and looking how to take her business to the next step. And
Mhm.
luckily, she liked my idea, and my idea was, well, why don't we just combine forces and you come to work with us? And luckily, we did that early on, and I feel like it's just one more way that we're able through Emerald, through Surf Expo, to support our
Mhm.
community on a day-to-day basis by keeping everybody informed.
Power in partnerships. When you align yourself with someone that does something very good, and you can both have the same goal or objective, it's unparalleled in its success rate. So I think that it was a good move for you guys to come together and create this. It was perfect timing, and it's almost like a highlight reel. What you're able
Yeah,
to put out into the market is top level, and news is terrible. Like, I don't want to put on the real news. There's nothing good that's ever going to come out of it. So, as somebody that's in the industry right now, I want to just immerse myself in what's trending, what's amazing, what should I know that's going to propel me in my career. So, I love that you guys collaborated and that we now have that as a tool and as a resource. So, it's great.
that's awesome. Yeah.
Mhm.
She's a joy to work with, a true professional. So, if you think about it, up until about 6 months ago, she produced one researched article a day. I mean, not
Oh,
not a press release, but a researched article a day for almost 16 years by herself. And luckily now we have her a little help, and things are moving along strong. But again, I think that's part of. You asked a minute ago how trade shows play into the industry sector. I think that's just one more, not obligation, but one more thing that we can give to connect everybody, before, during, and after the events.
100%. And part of this connectivity is humanizing the whole process. And so Roy right now is playing Dad of the Year. He is at a pickup to make sure that his son doesn't have to walk home or anything. And I think it's taboo. We don't talk about it enough, but trade shows require a lot of travel. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of deadlines. There's missing in action from whether you're a dad or a mom, or maybe you just have a fur baby. So tell us a little bit about Roy the dad and how you manage it all, being away but still connecting with your family and keeping it all balanced.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks to my wife on that one, right? But yeah, you're right. I know at one time I think I had 15 events in a
Mhm.
year, and you and I know that that's more than 15 weeks of travel, right? Just for being at the event. But I think trying to stay connected on a family basis and, family first and trying to make sure you're there, even when you're on the road. Thank goodness for, for iPhones and for texting and video chats. I think that's part of the play. And then the other thing is to immerse ourselves in family when you are home. And so, I think tomorrow morning I start with archery and then skate park and then climbing gym on Sunday. So, I mean, I think staying involved in all aspects is really important. But I mean, come on, you travel, you've been there. I've had these discussions. It's the work-life balance is interesting. Luckily, right now I work from home, so that's 2 hours a day that I'm not commuting. That I can be with family, and I think that's really important. So I appreciate the fact that the company understands that, and we're given some flexibility because we do travel. It's part of our job.
We travel, and so my husband and I, we have a running joke where every time I leave for a trip, something happens. The kid puts something up their nose and he's going to the doctor, and it's not just like, oh, they're sick or something. Like, it's really weird stuff that ends up happening. So he's always like, of course you just left for ASD. We had the whole storm. There's supposed to be a hurricane and there was an earthquake in California. And he goes, see, every time you leave, something happens and I'm all alone. But we figure it out. And I totally agree with you. You have to enjoy the moments that you do have at the house. And you also need to set up boundaries. Like sometimes you need to say, you know what, I've been back to back. This one, I'm just not going to be able to make this trip. I need to be home to make sure that our unit is taken care of, and we need that break. So, do you ever set up any boundaries?
Yeah, I try to set the phone down at a certain time. Don't get me wrong, like if I set the phone down for 2 to 3 hours, there's always another check. I live on the East Coast, so I'm based on the East Coast, and the majority of my business is on the West Coast. So there's already 3-hour time zone. So somebody trying to finish their day is after dinner for me. And I have to respect that. That's part of our customers. So, but you can do that. You can control how you do that, right? And so to your point, you set the boundaries on that and try and hold true to them.
Well, I love it. Now, I know you need to go, so I'm going to wrap it up. I have to ask you, Surf Expo, it's coming up in January. What can people expect? And for someone who's never been to the event before, what's your sales pitch? How do you get them over there to make sure that they can enjoy the fabulousness of it all?
Yeah. I usually start with the fact that everybody has a Surf Expo story, so why don't you come make one, right? That can be during the show, before the show, or maybe after hours at the show. It's a pretty good group of guys. But I think the thing to do, if you want to come, stay on point, stay on trend, make some new connections. I think that's one of the key things that we're allowed to do. Or if you've never experienced being part of the community, Surf Expo offers that. Like a perfect example this time is it's the East Coast Hall of Fame, Surfing Hall of Fame's awards. It's an amazing 2 hours. If you've never done it, you should be there. And by the way, you should come this January because guess what? I'm getting installed in the East Coast Surfing Hall of Fame this January. So now you don't have an excuse. Right? Yeah. So a pretty big deal for me. I've been in the business forever, and to be recognized by your peers is great, but it's something you don't feel anywhere else, right? There is a camaraderie. There's no competition. We're not winning World Series. Come on, man, we're surfers, right? But I think those are some of the things you can experience there. And, the music, the liveliness, there are a few beers in the afternoon that don't make it too bad, right? But at the end of the day, it's about making those connections that make us successful. Maybe not at the show, but definitely after the show. So I hope one of these days I can get you over and show you what it's all about.
Love it. And when is the show? Remind everyone. It's coming up January what?
Our show is January 10th this year. So we look forward to seeing everybody. You can check us out online at surfexpo.com or find us on LinkedIn as well. Okay.
Perfect. Well, Roy, such a pleasure. I'm so happy we got the opportunity to chat. we've only been working with each other for 7 years. And again, the first time I actually get to know who Roy Turner is. So I appreciate you taking the time, and we will see you at Surf Expo in January.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Liked what you heard? Make sure you subscribe to my channel for all future episodes and bonus content. You can also follow me on Spotify, Apple, Google, and iHeartRadio.